At the capital, inside the Morgana Marquis residence, the female protagonist sits with a mischief smile playing on her lips. She is literally glowing as she looks at the letter in her hand and decides that it's not bad. Across from her, a man sits stiffly, radiating "bro is stressed" vibes. She tells him that the marriage will be simple and that they will live in the north. The man sighs heavily, sounding like someone just stole his last brain cell, and declares that there won't be any room for luxury. He insists she should behave like a proper lady of the house. Before he can even continue his lecture, she cuts him off with a soft "oh my," the kind that makes it clear she's not even listening. His red eyes narrow in irritation, but her attention is already elsewhere, entirely focused on the macarons laid out before her like they are holy treasures. She casually thinks about how she should buy a few more because priorities. He smirks at this, thinking it truly wasn't an exaggeration when they called her the queen of high society. His gaze trails along her flowing hair and almost transparent skin, and no wonder the crown prince is so taken with her. Just a few days ago at the Imperial ball, His Highness the Crown Prince had shamelessly declared that he shaved his head following her advice, as if she was the ultimate TikTok influencer of the empire. Still, Gilbert is smart enough not to fall for the rumors, though her beauty is certainly convincing, almost cheat code level. Even knowing the truth about his condition, she seems ready to marry him. He acknowledges it as a wise decision. Not that she had much choice, bound by the contract like it's some cursed subscription service she can't cancel. But just as he settles into that thought, she takes a casual sip of her tea and casually drops a plot twist. She wonders aloud who even said she is marrying him. His smile freezes mid-face, the way Wi-Fi freezes during a final boss fight. He stares at her, bewildered, and questions what she means. She lifts her finger up with dramatic flair and, with a huge smile, declares that it's not him, but his father she plans to marry. Absolute chaos. Once upon a time, about 300 years ago, a contract was created by the previous family heads. It was about marrying off their descendants when they were born, but if the age gap was too large, or if they happened to be the same gender, that would be awkward. So they decided to set a generous time frame, like, no worries, future kids can figure it out. It was basically a drunk joke between old men, but the real problem was the paper on which this contract was written, because clearly the universe looked at it and said, bet. Even if thrown into lava or discarded in the deep sea, the cursed paper always returns to its place like an unskippable ad. Back in the present, Gilbert straight up loses his mind, shouting at her and deeming the whole thing absolutely ridiculous. He insists that if the contract is violated, misfortune will befall the family, serving doomsday preacher energy. He slams the clause right near her face like he's dropping receipts. She looks at it with the bored gaze of someone scrolling through memes at 3 a.m. Originally, the extremely timid Maevia would have been unable to withstand Gilbert's pressure and would have accepted his proposal, basically folding like a cheap lawn chair. But Ms. Kim, who lives in another world, is built different, because she already knows the ending of this story. Once upon a time, there lived the adopted first son Gilbert and the second son Risen in a duke's family. Risen possesses a kind heart and the qualities of a great magician, so he becomes the protagonist of this story. Meanwhile, his older brother Gilbert is consumed by inferiority, so he decides to become the villain. Textbook side character downfall. 1 year later, Gilbert brought home a daughter from a noble family as his wife, and the unfortunate woman who became the villain's wife was none other than Maevia. Her family was on the verge of bankruptcy due to consecutive investment failures, literally broke.com, so she couldn't refuse Gilbert's threats using the family contract as leverage. And so, after going to the north and enduring hellish days, Maevia thought that perhaps it would have been better not to marry at all. If she had the chance to be born again, she promised never to repeat the same mistake. However, this story will no longer unfold that way, because Ms. Kim, who possessed Maevia, pulled a glow-up arc and revived Maevia's falling family, to the extent that one room was stacked with gold and silver treasures. Basically Scrooge McDuck levels of rich. She remains seated there with a calmness his being no longer possesses, while Gilbert absolutely screams at her, demanding to know what on earth her reason is for doing this, and what wrong he has ever done to her. She feigns innocence at his accusation and, with casual energy that screams, "Unbothered queen," said she is simply curious about his father. She declares that the man who raised him so wonderfully is someone she must meet. She points out that, above all, his father is an unmarried man, making him a valid candidate for the contract. The clause she shows him clearly states that there are no restrictions regarding the age or marital status of the partner. His eyes widen in shock. Such a thing existed? He wonders, what on earth is this woman? He is certain everyone believes the Duke to be an old man. Almost instantly, he switches up his strategy like a gamer trying a new build and demands to know what she wants. Dresses? Jewels? He screams at her, accusing her of being so greedy that even the position of Grand Duchess cannot satisfy her. She narrows her eyes at him, low-key offended that he's giving broke boy accusations. Suddenly he pauses, a thought flashing through his mind, and asks if she looks down on him because he is adopted. But she doesn't even bother answering. Instead, she calls for her maid, Sarah, to escort him out. She ignores his protests that he still has things to say, and with a sweet smile, tells him to send her regards to the Duke. Meanwhile, at the Grand Duke's northern residence, the snake asks Edis Kalate how long he plans to keep sleeping. He doesn't even bother giving a response, fully in his do not disturb era. Meanwhile, Maevia thinks that even a demon lord would be better than trash like Gilbert. And honestly, she's not wrong. Gilbert's servant had come on his behalf 10 days ago, but Maevia sent him straight back like, nope, denied. He came again 7 days ago, trying again with his persistent little NPC energy, and then once more 3 days ago, his desperation growing each time. But, as always, she refuses to meet him, like a queen ghosting a DM. And today, he is rejected once again. Later, the maid barges into her room, full-on screaming as if the house is on fire, prompting Maevia to calmly tell her to chill, settle down, and explain what's wrong. Without even pausing to breathe, Sarah blurts out that there's a gift from Lord Gilbert. She then fumbles straight into a rant, complaining that it's basic courtesy to check the meaning behind a first gift. And yet, this man had the audacity to send chrysanthemums, flowers that are, hello, often associated with funerals. Sarah throws her hands up like there's a limit to how thoughtless someone can be. Maevia, however, only glances at the flowers for a hot second before saying she's sure he didn't mean it like that. She figures he probably chose them because white looks pure. And honestly, he strikes her as the type to think all flowers are the same anyway. But her calm, logical reasoning does nothing to cool Sarah's gamer rage energy, who snaps that it seems the ducal house doesn't even teach basic manners or etiquette 101. She adds that Gilbert never even comes in person, always sending servants instead, and disturbing their peace like some annoying mobile notification. Maevia nods, saying that's actually a sharp observation, considering the family's infamous neglect. Then, all at once, she flips the vibe and declares that instead of sitting around, they should go out and have some fun for a change. With a bright smile that screams, she announces that today's mission is simple, not to return home until they've spent all their money. Absolute side quest unlocked. She also tells Sarah to yeet the bouquet straight into the incinerator. No mercy, no recycle. When she arrives at the boutique, it's already closed off for other customers for the day, VIP style. The staff treat her with extra care and attention, clearly used to seeing her often, and clearly knowing the gold coins are about to rain. She has invited a few friends too. One of them, Charles Morgause, the eldest daughter of the third Marquess of Morgause, thanks her warmly, saying she had been stressing hard over what to wear for Monica's birthday party. Maevia smiles back, all gracious, and says she should be the one thanking Charles for joining her today. Charles lets out a deep breath, saying she feels so relieved to have Maevia's help. Just thinking about last year's party still makes her shudder. Literal trauma unlocked. Back then, Monica had judged her harshly, calling her dress tacky, and acting too shocked to believe she'd even paid for it. Like, girl, calm down. Maevia promises her that this time, she'll make sure she's dressed so well that Monica won't dare say a word. Overwhelmed, Charles jumps into Maevia's arms, calling her a savior like this is an anime reunion scene. Meanwhile, Monica is also at the boutique, only to be told that they can't serve her today. She protests, pointing out that they had promised she could come anytime. The classic, but don't they know who she is, move. The woman replies with an apologetic smile, explaining that another guest arrived before her. Monica bursts out angrily, demanding to know who dared to turn her away, her entitlement level set to max. Her loud voice startles the other guests, and one of them instantly recognizes it. Monica barges inside anyway, ignoring the saleswoman's desperate attempts to explain that there's still a guest being served. Monica brushes it off with peak audacity, saying it's fine since, from the voice, she thinks it's her friend. Seeing Maevia, Monica smiles like she owns the place and expects everyone to vibe with her. Monica Elaine is the eldest daughter of the third Marquess of Elaine. Maevia returns the smile, saying there's nothing wrong and adding that it's good to see her. However, Monica's eyes soon narrow at Charles, and she demands why Charles is here, the drama level spiking immediately. Without waiting for an answer, Monica dives straight into critique mode, saying that even if someone buys expensive clothes, if they have no sense, then it's actually worse than wearing something worth a single silver. Charles looks uncomfortable at first, but still replies calmly, admitting she knows, which is exactly why Maevia is helping her. But Monica, clearly running on unshakable main character delusion, refuses to back down. She quickly plops herself right between them like an uninvited group chat lurker, declaring this must be fate, and that she too can help pick something out. Charles tries to politely refuse, saying there's no need, but Monica insists again, asking if Charles doesn't trust her fashion sense, as if this is some kind of loyalty test. While browsing through the designs, Monica casually comments that Maevia is so pretty that even a literal floor sack would look good on her, and it's not because she has good fashion sense. Maevia wonders if that's supposed to be a compliment or just shade disguised as one, but still, a small smile tugs at her lips. She thinks that while Monica is portrayed as a villainess in the novel, in reality, she's just a clumsy and shy girl cosplaying as intimidating. Maybe she feels this way because she herself is different from the Maevia in the story, running on new DLC energy. Just then, Monica spots a design and excitedly exclaims that this is it. She says that for someone with a plain impression like Charles, something flashy and feminine would fit perfectly. However, Charles's expression drops instantly. The dress feels like way too much for her. She tries to politely decline, saying it's a little too flashy for her taste, but Monica doesn't budge, insisting that she should at least try it on before making a decision. But then Maevia quietly suggests that Charles should try it on too. She tells her she thinks it would match her hair color perfectly. Acting indifferent on the outside, Monica says she doesn't really like it, but if Maevia insists that much, then fine, she'll try it. Fine. Deep down though, she's actually flattered, and her poker face is basically glitching. Everyone watches their exchange with warm smiles, like it's some wholesome slice-of-life cutscene. Maevia then picks out another dress for Charles, saying that rich colors like these would also suit her well. The vibe feels light and easygoing until Monica suddenly blurts out, completely out of pocket, that the rumors must be true, that Maevia got a marriage proposal from Gilbert. She immediately follows up, asking if Maevia accepted. The other girls clearly hadn't heard anything, because they all start pressing her for details like a pack of gossip mag reporters. With a nervous smile, Maevia says she already turned the proposal down. Monica quickly says, as expected, and asks the room to agree with her. She adds that Gilbert might have a decent face, but at the end of the day, he's still only an adopted son, and she finds it hilarious how he acts like real nobility. Charles gently scolds her, saying that's a bit harsh toward the Lord. Monica argues back that she didn't mean anything bad. She's just saying Maevia deserves better. She points out that if Maevia married him, she would have to move to the barren north, which sounds like a side quest nobody asked for. Saying she's not feeling well, Monica quickly excuses herself and dips out. On her way out, Maevia wonders if everything will really turn out just as it's meant to. In the original novel, Monica badmouthed Gilbert every single day, and wherever she nodded, even slightly by accident, Monica's words became hers, and Gilbert's violence would fall on her instead. Eventually, even that wasn't enough, and she ended up in Gilbert's bed. She thinks for her own future, and for Monica's as well. She absolutely hopes she never gets involved with that trash. However, she freezes in her tracks when a voice cuts through the air, smooth but sharp, saying he can see she's feeling better already. Gilbert steps into view, a smirk lingering on his lips like a villain reveal in the final act. Her breath catches when their eyes lock, and the tension is so thick it could honestly be cut with a butter knife. He asks her to say something, but instead of giving him the satisfaction, she suddenly fakes a stumble. She recovers with suspicious speed and claims she still has a raging fever. Not just any fever like, buy her something new or she might actually perish, fever. She even adds that her condition will only worsen unless she makes a purchase. He laughs at that, and the sound makes her flinch. Honestly, she wonders if he's finally lost it. But then again, he's never been exactly normal, so maybe this is just his baseline crazy. With a knowing smile, he implies that he must have been oblivious all along, suggesting that her entire act is just to frustrate him on purpose. He calls her childish in the most backhanded way possible. She, however, reminds him firmly that she has zero intention of marrying him. Like, not today, not tomorrow, not even in an alternate timeline. He dismisses her words with a smug certainty, utterly convinced she doesn't mean what she says. She stares back at him, unwavering, practically spelling it out in bold font that she really does mean it. And then, boom! Without warning, he grabs her arms and yanks her closer. His expression darkens like some villain reveal moment, and with chilling calmness, he tells her that he's had enough of her petty games. His eyes bore into hers as he leans down, declaring that this right here is the absolute limit of his patience. Fear flickers in her eyes as the realization smacks her. She let her guard down. She never expected him to show his true colors this fast, and it's honestly giving horror movie vibes. Just as the tension is about to snap, Charles steps in like the ultimate knight in practical armor and shoves Gilbert away with force. She declares that the lady said she doesn't want this, and her voice has the authority of someone who could get an army moving. Gilbert's polite smile snaps back into place like a mask, and he tries to smooth it over by calmly explaining that he only came to talk with the lady who broke her promise. He even has the audacity to ask if Charles might step aside for just a moment. Charles, of course, doesn't budge an inch, and warns him that if he doesn't leave right now, the guards will be called. Her gaze sharpens, almost lethal, and Gilbert freezes for a beat. Charles's stare sends him spiraling into a memory he clearly doesn't want to revisit. In his mind, he's transported back to the time someone else looked at him, with that exact same cold disdain eyes that saw him as little more than a bug to be crushed. Someone who had told him to take care of it and never come crawling back again over something so pathetic. The weight of that memory makes his composure snap. Gilbert explodes, loudly declaring that he will become the Duke of Kalakis and rule over all the North. His voice booms enough to stir up a commotion, drawing every pair of eyes in the vicinity. For a second, it's all noise and chaos. But then Maevia screams his name, and the whole world seems to pause. Her eyes are sharp as a blade, and her voice carries a deadly chill as she warns him, if he doesn't want to be dragged away, he better leave, right now. He realizes then that the crowd isn't just murmuring, they're watching, all of them. With a curse under his breath, Gilbert halts. Perfect timing, because the carriage arrives and Sarah calls out to Maevia. She slips inside, but Gilbert can't resist one more attempt. He offers to escort her to the Imperial ball, acting as though none of that public meltdown just happened. She asks him, wasn't she clear enough the first dozen times? She clarifies yet again that she has no intentions whatsoever of attending the ball. And then, in the most savage move possible, she throws him the middle finger and adds that the next time they meet, it'll be at the engagement ceremony. Mic drop moment. Days pass after Maevia heads north, and suddenly a new social trend starts circulating polite rejection rituals. Apparently, when someone never wants to see another person again, they burn their flowers. It's become the thing, and honestly, it's iconic. Later, at her mansion, Maevia curls up on her sofa, drained from the marathon of nonsense that was her day. She looks like the human embodiment of the do not disturb sign. Sarah walks in with perfect timing, offering her a glass of water and reminding her to be careful in the coming days. Maevia accepts it with a quiet thank you, but her mind won't let go of the nagging thought. She wonders aloud, how on earth did he know where to find her? It wasn't even on the official schedule, and that's the part that leaves her uneasy. Sarah's hand holding the tray suddenly shakes. Fear creeps into her voice as she mumbles that it's true. How did he know? Could he actually have had someone follow her? Maevia considers the possibility, narrowing her eyes, and replies that if it were someone from Gilbert's side, they would have known right away. Sarah nods faintly, agreeing that is true, but guilt pools in her chest at not being able to help her properly. Still, she steels herself and declares that from now on, Maevia must have guards accompanying her at all times. Maevia sighs, pointing out that such a thing is easier said than done. Sarah blinks, confused, and asks why. Maevia explains that Gilbert, even though he doesn't look like it, is actually the best swordsman in the entire empire. So really, what sense would it make to have just a few guards tagging along? Sarah's face pales, fright evident in her wide eyes, and she asks what they should do then. But Maevia assures her that it's okay. If it ever gets really urgent, she knows exactly what they have. Sarah freezes, then blurts out in shock if she's really going to use that. Maevia brushes it off smoothly, promising not to worry. It will only be once. After all, she thinks to herself, once she gets married, Gilbert won't even be able to look her in the eye ever again. Sarah, completely lost, blurts out in confusion, asking just who Maevia is planning to marry. But before she can get her answer, a loud thud rattles the window, and both of them jump in alarm. Sarah gasps and stammers, asking what's going on. Could it be a stranger? Or worse, a monster? Panic pushes her to call for the knights, but Maevia quickly stops her. The intruder lands on her hand with a surprising gentleness, feathers dark and glossy. At first, Maevia calls it a monster, but then she corrects herself, recognizing the creature, and announcing that it's the Duke's familiar. She lowers her voice and begins whispering into the crow's ear like it's some secret messenger. Meanwhile, in another place, Etta sits with sharp eyes, studying pictures and letters with meticulous attention. He was the one who sent the crow, originally to keep tabs on Gilbert, but there was another motive as well. He had ordered that bird to fly directly to Maevia Aston Morgana. His instructions had been perfectly clear. Keep an eye on that woman. Maevia, however, looks at the bird perched obediently on her hand and can't help but think that among the Duke's terrifying familiars, she never expected there to be such a ridiculously cute monster. Low-key, it almost feels like someone swapped out a nightmare beast for a pocket pet. At the capital city, inside Grand Duke Kalakis's villa, Gilbert has completely lost his mind. He acts like a maniac, hurling things across the room and cursing Maevia with every breath. In his head, he rages endlessly. Who does she even think she is, daring to look at him like that? He clutches his hair so tightly that his hands, already stained with blood, begin to tremble. His eyes are wide and burning with madness as he mumbles to himself, claiming she has no idea who he is going to become. He is convinced that soon he will be the head of the family, and the thought that someone like her had the audacity to turn him down drives him closer to insanity. Meanwhile, Yidis observes everything through the crow's eyes, finding the entire meltdown embarrassingly pathetic. It is like watching a spoiled brat throw a tantrum after losing a board game. He has seen more than enough. The following day, the crow is curled up comfortably in Maevia's bed, snoozing away like an oversized feathered cat. Maevia calls him a sleepyhead, telling him to wake up, while he rubs his eyes and stirs reluctantly. She teases him, asking if he even knows where she is heading today. With a sly smile, she thinks to herself that something interesting is definitely about to happen. Today, after spending so much time studying Gilbert's every move, she feels confident she now knows him better than he knows himself. Gilbert should honestly just sit back and grab some popcorn, because she is going to use him as the ultimate stepping stone to devour fate itself. Later, Sarah rushes over, her face full of worry, and asks if Maevia is going to be okay. Maevia assures her not to worry, claiming she has everything figured out. As she strokes the horse gently, she promises that nothing bad will happen, and that she won't let Elisa get hurt. Still uneasy, Sarah pleads with her to at least take a guard along, reminding her that an ordinary person doesn't stand a chance against Gilbert. If Gilbert senses anything unusual, he will simply go into hiding. Maevia, however, knows this has to end now, while the opportunity is still in her hands. Above them, the raven swoops low, and the sight makes Maevia smile. She looks up and playfully wonders if he is worried about her now. After warning him not to follow her, she sets off on her journey. As she ventures deeper into the forest, someone who has been lying in ambush suddenly appears, forcing her to yank the reins and halt the horse just in time. It is Gilbert, standing there with a dull smile and hollow eyes, giving full, "I skipped therapy again" vibes. She demands to know what he thinks he is doing, and he pretends innocence, claiming he was merely trying to say hello. He adds that he will apologize, so she should not be so defensive. She coldly makes it clear that she does not need his apology and orders him to move. He agrees, but insists he wants to talk, making a random comment about her good posture and asking if she has learned horse riding, like some awkward, small-talk NPC. She cuts him off sharply, asking if he really blocked her path just to spout nonsense. Gilbert chuckles, saying she truly is an impatient lady, but then decides to get to the point. He declares that he is offering her a chance, the chance to accept his marriage proposal and attend the ball with him. Out of nowhere, he suddenly sneers and claims that his father would never marry her, pointing at her with an almost gleeful spite, he announces that to his father, humans are no different from livestock. His father buys them as needed, uses them as tools, and right now, to him, the livestock called a wife is unnecessary. Even if Gilbert did marry her, he continues with sick satisfaction, she would be left neglected in the stables and left unprotected against the wolves. With a calm smile, Maevia replies that she had thought his father was a much more generous man. She coolly points out how Gilbert has already fallen behind his younger sibling, calling him selfish and completely lacking in charm, yet he still hasn't been dealt with. The shade is brutal, and Gilbert begins to tremble with fury. She finishes her point and turns to leave, telling him he should understand by now. Seething, Gilbert mutters that she has missed her last chance. He then screams after her that he will make her regret it for the rest of her life. Drawing his sword with shaky hands, he charges at her, shouting that he will cut her ankle so she cannot attend the ball. But with a swift and unexpected move, Maevia jumps and kicks him, knocking the sword clean out of his grasp. Staring him down with a cool expression, she reminds him that just because she had been speaking politely, did he really think she was some kind of pushover? The audacity is laughable, and she leaves him with no room to doubt it. He looks straight up shook and blurts out, demanding to know how. 11 years ago, a demon disguised as some random old dude had appeared before her. He suggested making a contract, telling her that if she set up his grave, he'd hand over the greatest strength, a power literally nobody could beat. It was some weird brand of magic she had never even heard of before. She had been so scared her whole body just froze, because deep down she knew that if she refused, she'd probably end up dead on the spot. Desperate, she tugged on his ragged clothes, promising to prepare whatever grave he wanted. The demon had handed her a box containing his blood and told her to drink it whenever she felt weak. He warned her that there would be some side effects, but she could borrow his strength for a little while. She had recoiled in total disgust the moment she realized it was blood. He even tossed in something bizarre, telling her that if anyone touched his grave, he'd turn it into strawberry flavor. Looking back now, she realizes the guy was oddly sweet in his own creepy demon way. Gilbert absolutely loses it. He calls her a witch and shouts about how she could dare to make a contract with a demon. He labels her a coward and threatens to report every single detail to the authorities once he gets back. But she just flashes him a mocking smile, basically serving him sass on a silver platter. Report what? She points out that he was the one who attacked her first, and even if he tried to spin it, who would actually believe his story? She adds that if he were the king, who would he believe, her or him? But Gilbert is clearly not listening. He's just standing there in a daze, completely thrown off by the overwhelming energy radiating from her, a force that feels eerily similar to his father's, maybe even stronger. Meanwhile, Edis is low-key suspicious, wondering if this whole thing hides some kind of trap. He replays the look on her face before she left, questioning if she had noticed something he himself missed. Right then, Kallen Turner, Gilbert's close buddy, bursts onto the scene, rushing toward him. He introduces himself politely before leaning in and whispering in Gilbert's ear, asking why he's just standing there frozen after only exchanging words. And what exactly did he do? The heavy vibes in the air are obvious, so Kallen immediately reminds him that his opponent is none other than Lady Maevia. To save face, he practically drags Gilbert into bowing his head and apologizing, nervously slapping on a smile while throwing out a random compliment about how her posture while riding a horse is, insanely cool. With that, Maevia turns her horse with calm grace and rides away. Back at the mansion, Sarah greets her with a face full of worry, immediately questioning how she managed to get hurt. Maevia answers lightly, explaining that demon blood doesn't exactly improve her durability. Sarah's expression twists into pure anger as she demands Maevia to be more careful, completely furious that anyone would dare to harm the young lady. Tears well up in Sarah's eyes as she cries out dramatically, saying that if this keeps up, Maevia won't even be able to attend the Imperial Palace event, the one she had been hyped for so long. Maevia, totally caught off guard, points at herself like, "Girl, what?" and asks if she really looked like she'd been excited about it. Sarah, not missing a beat, reminds her that she literally ordered a mountain of dresses for the Imperial ball. Maevia explains with a casual shrug that it was just her way of stress relief shopping, not genuine excitement. Sarah then exclaims that this year's ball is rumored to be legendary, with both the Prince and Her Majesty in attendance. She says it's completely unfair for Maevia to miss out just because of Gilbert. Determined like a soldier on a mission, Sarah insists she'll poultice Maevia's ankle every single night until the event, so she must go. Maevia, however, replies in her usual chill tone that she doesn't feel it's unfair at all. She hadn't even planned on going anyway since she doesn't have a partner. Turning to the crow perched nearby, Maevia smiles like she's letting him in on an inside joke and asks if he's been doing well. She brags a little, saying he should have seen her earlier because she was seriously cool. Then she chuckles and adds that maybe even the Grand Duke would have fallen for her if he had witnessed it. At the sudden mention of his master, the crow freezes mid-blink, looking startled before quickly stabbing his beak at the table like he's suddenly starving. Maevia tilts her head, wondering if he's actually just hungry. Sarah chimes in, insisting it looks like the crow wants the young lady to attend the ball too. She even pulls the ultimate puppy face, piling on guilt points with a "now even the crow is asking you" vibe. Maevia sighs, groaning that she doesn't want to. It sounds way too troublesome. Sarah, being extra as always, points out that Lord Gilbert will definitely dress to impress for her sake. Maevia retorts that this is exactly the problem, because the only person she actually wants to see isn't even coming. She remembers how the Grand Duke came to the capital only once. He didn't even show when his younger son was in danger. Today only reinforced her belief that it's ridiculously hard to get the Grand Duke's attention. Half joking, half serious, she wonders aloud if next time she should injure Lord Gilbert on purpose, just to forcefully summon the Grand Duke. Then, without hesitation, she hands over Gilbert's sword to Sarah and instructs her to toss it into the poop bucket. Maevia bows and greets her mother and father. Her father states that she is late, to which she apologizes. He asks her to sit down. They are Marquis and Marchioness Morgana, Maevia's parents. As she takes a seat to have food, the Marchioness asks her if everything is all right lately. She responds that everything is all right. The Marchioness tells her that if something happens, she shouldn't suffer alone and should talk to them comfortably. Maevia wonders if they found out about the Gilbert matter. She is aware that she did make such a fuss. She tells them that they don't have to worry so much. She is aware that she could ask her parents for help. However, according to the original novel, her parents were always indifferent to Maevia, and she always had to watch their backs. Even on her 6th birthday and the Christmas the following year, her parents were continuously absorbed only in their business. But she is curious as to why they are asking how she is all of a sudden. The Marquis tells her not to worry too much, mentioning that they aren't the kind of family that can't handle one mess their child made. The Marchioness mentions that it passed quickly in the past too, without having to hire an assassin. She reminds her it was when she was 7 and asks her if she remembers. She is dumbfounded. Her mother tells her, wasn't she the one who laid flat on the floor just to stop them from going out? She responds that she can't help but remember, even if she doesn't want to. She remembers that it was the day they went to invest half of the family's entire fortune in that damned shipping business. Since she was 7, reasoning didn't work, so she embarrassingly threw a bit of a tantrum. She wonders if it isn't from when she was too young. The Marchioness mentions that it's the same now. In their eyes, she is still a child. There was a time they didn't realize she was a child. She was somewhat mature for her age since she was young, wasn't she? So they ended up thinking she didn't need adults, but that wasn't true. Both of them were stunned to see her begging them to stay with her. The Marchioness puts her hand on Maevia's hand, stating that even now she is worrying inwardly like a child. She ponders that even if the rise and fall of the family could be changed, she thought the family atmosphere at least couldn't be changed. She realizes that her prediction was wrong. She shows gratitude to her parents. The Marchioness states that she heard Maevia hasn't found a partner for the ball, questioning if that is correct. Maevia is completely taken aback. The Marquis asks her to go with them, holding hands for the first time in a while. She tries to refuse, mentioning that she wasn't planning on going to the ball. At that moment, the bird flies toward her. She calls out to it. The maid apologizes, explaining that the bird is too fast. The Marquis, with a terrified expression, asks if she knows the bird. She replies that he's the one she is raising. She grows worried, thinking, what if they find out he's a demonic beast? Noticing her parents' sharp eyes, the Marchioness comments that her taste has changed quite a bit. She responds that the bird must have come looking for her because he's hungry, and that she'll be right back. After taking him somewhere else, she asks him why he did that, wondering if he has something urgent to tell her. He spits something out. She wonders if it's the Imperial seal. She asks if it's attached to the ball invitation. She then asks if he heard correctly that she doesn't have a partner, and if he'll be her partner. She calls out to him, explaining that they have to consider their height difference. Unfortunately, if he can't dance, he can't be her partner. She then gets excited and asks if he is coming. Meanwhile, His Grace is informed that the preparations for the capital procession are complete. When asked how he would like to depart, he states that he'll leave first and should be followed immediately behind. Using magic, he reaches the capital. On the other hand, the Marchioness asks Maevia if she should have fresh tea brought. Maevia responds that she came because she has something brief to tell her. First, she thanks them for inviting her to go to the ball together, and then she asks if she can act like a child just one more time. The Marquis tells her that if it's about the ancestral contract, he'll handle it. She tells him that's not the case. Instead, she wants to fulfill that contract. The Marquis becomes worried and asks, "Besides young Master Gilbert, the men in that family are only children, aren't they?" She feels awkward and hurriedly tells them it's not about that child. She reminds them that there is one more unmarried man, isn't there? She is referring to the Grand Duke. She mentions that for reference. Let's reiterate that the Grand Duke is known to be a white-haired old man. The Marchioness says she understands, which shocks the Marquis. He asks if she surely isn't permitting this. Her mother tells her that, to her it feels like she has been distant with her until now, because she didn't know who she held in her heart. The Marchioness questions if she has something arranged with the Grand Duke. Maevia responds that it's not the case, but she thinks he'll come on the day of the ball. She intends to talk to him then. The Marchioness asks if, to make up for the lack of conversation, they should perhaps go on a family trip on the day of the ball. They think Alicia sounds good. Maevia is completely shaken, wondering, isn't that a country on the next continent? She tells her mother that she misunderstood, mentioning that the Grand Duke looks much younger than his age. The Marchioness excitedly calls her their lovely baby and tells her to pack her bags. Maevia gets ready for the ball with a level of excitement that even surprises herself. She carefully chooses her shoes and then holds up 2 different fans, turning to the maid with a bright sparkle in her eyes, asking which one she should carry. The maid can't help but tease, saying that her mistress seems way too hyped for someone who literally said not long ago that she didn't even want to attend the ball. With a sly look, the maid then wonders aloud if maybe the sudden change of mood has something to do with the Grand Duke, reminding her that he, after all, isn't some ancient old man. Maevia instantly cuts her off, telling her not to talk about that at all. The maid just smirks and says it's too late, the rumors are already flying across the entire mansion like wildfire. Maevia's heart sinks for a second. If the Grand Duke doesn't show up tonight, or worse, if he does and turns out to actually be an old man, she knows she'll be booking a one-way trip to the neighboring continent under the excuse of recuperation. The maid wonders aloud if the Grand Duke is coming, right? Maevia herself begins to wonder where Raven is. She still needs to double-check with him about some things. But then she realizes she hasn't even seen him since this morning. A sudden, uneasy thought flickers through her mind. He didn't seriously run away, right? The maid notices her muttering and asks if she's saying something about Raven. Maevia quickly brushes it off, saying there's nothing. Meanwhile, the atmosphere outside the Imperial ballroom is totally different. The rain pours down heavily, while inside the place buzzes with whispers. Everyone is gossiping about the Grand Duke's adopted son, the one who supposedly arrived in the capital this time. The word is that he's insanely handsome and, apparently, already had a messy lover's spat with Maevia right in the middle of the street. People whisper that Maevia always walked around, acting all proud and untouchable. But maybe all it really took was a good-looking man to trip her up. They say it's not shocking, though. After all, she is both stunning and widely known for her sharp business skills. But then, a man interrupts with a mocking tone, questioning her so-called business acumen. He laughs, saying, doesn't everyone know that the quarry she bought for a huge fortune ended up getting overrun by monsters and shut down? The crowd chuckles until they are silenced by a voice that cuts through. Maevia herself interrupts, leaving them all stunned into silence. She reminds him that it happened back when she was literally still a child. And on top of that, he is not someone with the right to talk so carelessly about her. She lifts her glass, takes a sip, and discovers the wine is actually incredible smooth, delicious, and exactly what she needed. The classical music floats around the room, elegant and soothing, making the whole evening feel flawless. Yet deep down, her chest tightens. She's unsettled. Why isn't the Grand Duke here yet? She had convinced herself that him showing up tonight was practically guaranteed, almost like a sign. But what if she was completely wrong? What if she just fooled herself into believing it? The thought makes her restless. Her spiral is broken when someone nearby mutters that maybe the Grand Duke isn't coming after all. Maevia snaps her attention back and sees Monica approaching, greeting her with a polished smile. Quietly, Maevia asks what exactly she means, as if trying to drag out of her whether she has any inside info about the Grand Duke's attendance. She immediately thinks what a headache this woman is. Monica, of course, doesn't let the moment slide. She casually drops that everyone is already saying Maevia must have a thing for old grandpas. The thought alone makes Maevia want to roll her eyes. Just imagining it stresses her out. Then Monica shifts gears, suddenly asking about a reply. Maevia blinks, confused. Monica presses, asking why she never replied to the letter she sent. Maevia answers honestly that she doesn't recall ever receiving any such letter. A thought flickers in her mind. Maybe it was connected to that day they went to the restaurant? Monica's voice grows sharper. She says she's been waiting literally every single day for Maevia's response. Maevia responds without thinking, saying maybe she didn't reply because she didn't think it was worth replying to. The words hang in the air like a slap. Monica's face tightens, her anger spilling, as she demands what Maevia even means by that. Realizing she's gone too far, Maevia immediately backtracks, saying she totally misspoke and apologizes. She lowers her voice and softens her tone, apologizing once more. She explains that lately she's had way too much on her mind, and she guesses she accidentally let it out on someone she barely even knows. Maevia reaches out, clasping Monica's hand with a sudden rush of desperation, asking her softly if she could please forgive her. Monica doesn't hold back. Her voice rises, sharp and cutting, yelling that Maevia shouldn't do things she'll just have to apologize for later in the first place. Maevia doesn't flinch. Instead, she observes that Monica is nothing if not consistent, and she admits she actually likes that about her. Monica narrows her eyes, immediately shutting down the angle, saying she's not about to fall for the classic obvious line of, "She is consistently beautiful." Maevia, half amused and half irritated, thinks to herself that she didn't even say Monica was beautiful. Monica then straightens her posture and makes it clear she's not here to waste time on silly back and forths. She's here for business. Maevia tells her that if it's business, then she should take it up with her parents instead. But Monica shakes her head, stating this has nothing to do with her parents. It's about the land. The quarry Maevia bought 10 years ago. The one that's now crawling with monsters. Monica explains that she's sponsoring someone who's knee-deep in monster research and wonders if it might be possible for her to buy that land. Maevia doesn't hesitate, answering that she doesn't think it's possible. Monica immediately gets heated, asking why not, especially when the land is literally useless to her. Maevia responds with calm finality, saying she's protecting her honor. Before Monica can argue further, the announcer's voice cuts through the ballroom, declaring the arrival of Gilbert Kalakis. Instantly, the crowd ripples with excitement, buzzing with anticipation to catch a glimpse of him. Maevia glances toward the commotion and mutters under her breath that the one they're all waiting for isn't even coming. She then adds in her thoughts, "What's even supposed to be handsome about that man?" As far as she's concerned, the entire crowd must be blind. Monica takes the distraction as her cue and excuses herself, promising she'll be right back. She glides straight over to Gilbert with a polished smile, greeting him as though they're on familiar terms. Maevia's stomach twists at the sight, a question instantly igniting in her mind. Do they actually know each other? Was there some connection she had no clue about? The thought drives her crazy, irritation boiling as she wonders what kind of stunt Monica is going to pull this time. Unable to hold back, Maevia calls Monica's name and strides over to them, inserting herself neatly into the moment. She asks Monica if perhaps they should continue the business discussion they had left hanging. But then, Gilbert himself turns to her, as he calls her name. He says she's arrived just in time. Maevia, unimpressed, replies that she was actually handling business with Monica. Gilbert brushes it off, saying he's simply glad to see her looking healthy. With a sharp tongue, Maevia answers that of course she's healthy. Her ankle is still firmly attached, no matter how much certain people might have wished otherwise. The onlookers murmur, curiosity spiking, whispering whether this might be a lover's quarrel unraveling in front of them. Gilbert only smirks, saying she's still as witty as ever. Maevia cuts him off with a dry, flat, "too bad," and makes to leave, but Gilbert stops her with a pointed question. Doesn't she think there's still so much they need to discuss, right here in front of everyone? She turns back, icy, and tells him he can say whatever he wants about her power, since there's not a single soul here she trusts anyway. Gilbert straightens his expression and assures her with solemnity that he would never dare tarnish the lady's honor. She glares at him, demanding to know, then, what exactly does he want? Without hesitation, Gilbert drops down on one knee before the entire ballroom, his voice ringing with performative confidence. In accordance with the former contract, he respectfully requests her hand in marriage. He thinks to himself that a public proposal will box her in, leaving her with no room to wriggle free. If she accepts, he wins. If she refuses, she'll face the shame and political fallout of trying to marry her suitor's father. In his mind, there's no escape route left for her. He extends a ring toward her, his words heavy as he declares his wish that she become his wife. But in that same instant, Gilbert's perfect performance shatters Maevia, calm yet scathing, deliberately tips her glass and spills wine all over him, the act so obviously intentional that the entire crowd gasps. His confidence falters for the first time, shock written all over his face. Meanwhile, elsewhere, in a quieter part of the palace, a tense conversation unfolds. One man asks another, what brings him all the way here? Fear creeps into his voice as he wonders if he's committed some offense. But the visitor shakes his head, answering that he merely accepted the invitation, and there's no reason for anyone to fear him. He is then asked why, if that were the case, he skipped the ball entirely and chose to come here instead. The man explains calmly that it was curiosity. He wanted to see who the current king was, and now that he sees the king remains the same, he knows not much time has passed. 15 years ago, his own son had told him the North was ignoring the Imperial decree, and that he should issue an order. But the king had told him clearly not to touch the North, insisting that only he himself could control the monsters. The man recalls the king's words sharply. Listen carefully, for he is not human like the rest of them.